First thing I'd get clear on if I was restarting from scratch. What's the vision? Where are we going? What's the crusade? What it's gonna be like when? You need to get your story straight internally and the story that you speak to everybody else. You gotta get super clear on your vision. You gotta raise the standard. Because at the end of the day, your habits and your behaviors are just a reflection of the standard that you've set. So when you set a big vision and it's clear and you raise the standard, you're gonna figure out the habits. But knowing what I know now, if I started from scratch, I would personally recruit way more people. I'd get way wider at first generation. I'd get way more people trained earlier that could do what I do at the level that I do it at. And I'd focus way more on duplication, because the bigger the dream, the bigger the team. So if you want to 10x your business, you gotta get clear on a vision. You gotta raise the standard for your life and what your expectations are. And then you gotta go find some amazing frontline people that you can train and duplicate. And that's how you're gonna get to 10x in short order. Hey you guys, this is Ask Steve. This is where I read your questions that you ask me throughout the week and the month, whether it's through Instagram or YouTube or any of my other platforms. So if you have questions for me at any point, make sure you send them to me, because you never know, I might just read them on my channel. All right, the first question comes from Jake. Jake asked this: from your experience, why do you think people get stuck in between 100,000 and 250,000 a year and never bust through $250,000? I've been floating around 180,000 for the last 9 months or so, and I feel like I'm close to that lid. I'm close to busting through, but I can't quite pinpoint it. That's a great question, Jake. You know, we talk a lot in our team about the six-figure trap. Most of my leaders get stuck between $125,000 to $200,000 a year. So why is that? Well, first of all, it's because it's where their identity is. You're never gonna out-earn more than your identity. And here's the thing with 150 to 200,000 a year. You can earn most of that personally. So to make that kind of money, you have to go to work and you have to grind, but you get to a point where you can't really do more meetings and you can't possibly work any harder, so you get capped. So how do you bust through? Duplication. If you want to get to $250,000 or 3 or 4 or 500,000 a year, it's not how good you are anymore, it's how good your team is. So I want you to take a look at your team and ask yourself, how many people can do what you do at the level that you do it at? And once you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, depending on how much income you want to make, that's when you're going to see your income grow exponentially. That's when you're going to see yourself break through that $200,000, $300,000 a year. Because look, you can make 180 virtually off your own effort. A lot of people making 180 don't even have an assistant. But if you want to make $250,000 a year and beyond, you got to get some help and you got to duplicate. And that's for another day. All right, this question comes from Abton, and he left it on my YouTube channel. Said, Steve, could you share in your next meeting some ideas on how a small team can hit 80 appointments a month? From mindset to activities, what has worked for you to hit that 120 months in a row? That's a great question. So you got to break it down. If you want to do 80 appointments a month, that's 20 meetings a week. In order to get on 20 meetings a week, you're probably going to have to book 30. You book 30, 10 reschedule, you get on 20. So the focus isn't 20 meetings a week, it's 30 meetings a week. So you got to figure out how much inventory and how many calls do you have to make as a team to book those 30 appointments. If you have 3 of you, you each got to book 10 meetings. If there's 5 of you, you got to book 6. So regardless of what you're at, if you're doing 10 meetings a week, you got to get to 15. If you're 15, then you got to get to 20. So the way you do it is this. You take your 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. You firstly make sure everybody's got fresh inventory. Everybody's constantly prospecting. Everybody's got a working list. If nobody on your team has anybody to call, well then you're never going to do any meetings. So first you got to work on the inventory. How many names on a list does your team have? What's the status of your team's prospect list? Do you as a team have 300 on a list, 400 names on a list, 1,000 names on a list? So step 1 is getting a grip on how many prospects your team has on a list. Second of all, you got to book a phone zone. Your team is not making calls on their own. They're not going home and after dinner, in between tucking in their kids, making phone calls. You got to get on a Zoom call or in person, and you got to create an hour and a half where you guys make calls. One at a time, you make calls, right? 85% of all of my meetings that get booked on my team happen in a phone zone that happens on a Saturday during 1 hour. So get on the phone as a group, make calls, and set that goal. How do you hit 30? You get as many people as you can on the call with as many names as number as possible, and together you make calls and you do everything that you can to fill those 30 meetings. If you need to recruit more people because you need more people helping out, then do that. But that's how you do it. I'm very, very, very aware of how many teammates I have showing up, how many names they all have on their prospect list, how many calls they're all making, and how many appointments they're contributing to the weekly goal, which ends up contributing to the monthly goal. So I hope that helped. Okay, this question comes from Mehul, and he responded to one of my question stickers on Instagram. The question is, what is the most effective way to recruit people to our business? Great question. Listen, the most effective way to recruit anybody to anything is figure out what's in it for them. Like, why would they join your team? Why would they join your business? What need do they have that your business can fulfill? You know, I find a lot of times when people are trying to attract people to their business, they talk a lot about themselves and what it's done for them and where they're going. What about the prospect? If I were to give you a shot to do this, why would you do it, right? What's in it for you? What do you got going on right now that you don't want any more of? Oh, you got debt. Okay, what else? You don't love your job. Okay, what else? You want to be somebody. Okay, what else? You want to make 6 figures. Okay, what else? And then what you do is you make sure that you tailor the opportunity to suit their needs. Don't sell this business as an impact business for them if they want to make more money, right? Don't just talk about the money if they're looking for more impact. Figure out what they want. Figure out what they need. Figure out what they want more of in their life, and then tailor the business opportunity to those needs. Because this business, or any business, is interesting to different people for different reasons, right? Everybody joins a business for different reasons. So figure out what those reasons could be for them, and then tailor the business opportunity to those. Great question. Okay, this question comes from Josh, and he asked me through my Instagram channel. He said, what was the one thing that changed your business? Now, there's a lot of things that changed my business, but the first thing that came to mind is this. What changed my business is when I developed a relationship with my mentor. Once I had a mentor, once I had somebody in our business that was further down the path that believed in me, I felt unstoppable. It propelled me to new levels. The lows didn't seem so low. When I was high, I had somebody to share that with. And of course, you guys know my mentor in business is Ed Milet. And once him and I connected, and once we started building a relationship, everything changed for me. You know, it was just a subtle shift from the outside looking in, but from the inside out, it changed everything for me. I believed that I could do it. I had somebody that had been down the path. I knew that I could work hard and that I was not a quitter, but I needed somebody who could see my blind spots and was further down that path. And when I found that person in my business and my life, everything changed for me. So I recommend everybody finding that person for them. Okay, this question comes from Vicus, and he asked me, what is your goal, sir? Oh, very polite of you. I appreciate you asking me like that. Look, what is my goal? I have a lot of goals. Depends on the area, whether it's family or health or business. But one of my business goals is that we are going to build the largest financial education company in the world. We have a vision in our team to license over 100,000 people just a part of our team. And the good news is, if you're a part of our team, we are just at the beginning of that journey. If you're taking a look at our business and you're looking for an opportunity, right, you could be one of those 100,000. But with 100,000 licenses, we are going to make a huge impact, not only in our local community, of course, not just North America, but worldwide. So that is one of my biggest business goals right now that we're focused on, is building a 100,000 licensed agent army. And I'm excited for it. All right, this question comes from Valeria on Instagram. She asked, if you're restarting in business, how do you 10x your growth? What would you do? That's a great question. Knowing what I know now, I would obviously do things a bit different. But first thing I'd get clear on if I was restarting from scratch, what's the vision? Where are we going? What's the crusade? What it's going to be like when? You need to get your story straight internally and the story that you speak to everybody else. You got to get super clear on your vision. And look, everybody's looking for habits. It's not necessarily habits that you need. You got to raise the standard. You got to raise the standard. Because at the end of the day, your habits and your behaviors are just a reflection of the standard that you've set. So when you set a big vision and it's clear and you raise the standard, You're gonna figure out the habits. But knowing what I know now, if I started from scratch, I would personally recruit way more people. I'd get way wider at first generation. I'd get way more people trained earlier that could do what I do at the level that I do it at. And I'd focus way more on duplication. Way more on duplication. Less about just writing sales and more about duplication. Because the bigger the dream, the bigger the team. So if you want to 10x your business, you got to get clear on a vision. You got to raise the standard for your life and what your expectations are. And then you got to go find some amazing frontline people that you can train and duplicate. And that's how you're going to get to 10x in short order. All right, you guys, this is the last question of this segment, and it comes from Ryan, who asked me this question through my Instagram. He said this: what's one thing about leadership you believed early on that is no longer true? Wow, that's a really good question. And I had to think about this one before I answered it. But here's one thing. Early on, when I didn't really understand leadership, I didn't really have a team, I thought leadership was all about title and position. I thought, once I get the title, once I get into a certain position, everybody's gonna listen to me. And that could be the farthest thing from the truth. Leadership is about trust and influence. Trust and influence. If you don't have trust, nobody's gonna listen to you. If you don't have influence on your team, then it doesn't matter what you say, nobody's gonna do it. So I spent a lot of my career building trust to gain influence so that when I challenge somebody, they do it. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter what your title is. If people don't trust you, you will have no influence. So focus on that and you'll become a great leader.